Hey guys, welcome to Anatomy of a Movie news for this week, July 2nd. Now, a really interesting thing just happened across the pond. Google Glasses, which have only been out there for about a week now, we've had them for a year over here. They are banned at all movie theaters in the UK because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to tell when people are recording films, and they don't want the piracy of recording movies in theaters. And I agree with them. It's got to be hard to see that, but what do you guys think about banning it totally? You just can't wear them.
I mean, I think that's a good idea, and I'm surprised it's not banned over in America yet, because you think Americans would be more, adept to include to piracy. And so I think America should jump on that bandwagon as well.
Wow. I don't know if you can ban someone from wearing certain types of glasses, but they have over there, so we'll see what happens and if Google has anything to say about this.
You have to prove, well, number one, I've never seen Google Glasses here, even though they've been out.
Oh, they're very cool.
But I've never seen anybody wear them. I don't know what the proliferation is. So, and I don't even know how much they can record. So if it's like my iPhone, which I always shut off when I go into a movie theater, I mean, it can only record a snippet anyways, but why would you wear... I just don't get it. There's no need to have them on to begin with. And if it can be proven that you can record a good chunk of the movie, I totally agree with the banning. I know the Alamo Drafthouse here has taken, great measures. They've already banned people from wearing them. There was, as we have written here, there was a movie going at an AMC theater here that was hauled out, and they literally called Homeland Security on the guy, and it was proven. I mean, can you imagine like Homeland Security coming in and it's almost like a prank. It's almost like a movie,
Right.
And they come in. Could you imagine being hauled out by Homeland Security?
No, that seems terrifying.
And they were proven that the gentleman, I believe it was a man, was not recording anything. But what's the point? Like, just watch the movie. What do you need all this other? Why do you need to multitask in that way? Just stop the multitasking. Watch the movie.
I love that.
Well, in fun news at movie-going theaters, the World Cup is now currently going on in Brazil, and the Brazilians are actually flocking to the movie theaters. There has been an influx of 3.7 million people have gone to the country for the event, and the theaters are actually up 25% over this year, last year, and the EVP of the Global Content Programming of Cinemark, Stephen Bunnell, he said that everyone is very surprised. We thought that business was going to have been negatively impacted because people were going to be watching the football games and not, the movies.
They're not on all day, so I guess at night all these fans are running into the theaters to watch film, which is great. And
yeah, absolutely.
I think now Hollywood might be paying more attention to where big sporting events are going to be in the summer and sort of, marketing more towards all these people, which could be really interesting.
Absolutely.
Also, in other World Cup stories, the Ghana story that I don't know if everybody's heard of this. The Ghana soccer team basically said they're not going to play soccer unless their country pays them in cash. And they stopped. Apparently, they hadn't been paid $3 million by their country for, all these promotional deals that they were doing and all these things. And so we have, I think it's Bug Eater Films has optioned a project, and it was sold, and it's going to be about this Ghana soccer team story, and it's going to be about a guy, carrying $3 million worth of cash and being stopped and having only 24 hours to save his country's soccer team, let them play and in countries like this, I know in America, soccer isn't the biggest thing, but when soccer is the biggest thing and your team decides they're not going to play, I think that's a great story. I think this is going to be a really interesting film, and I love that Hollywood is jumping on the World Cup bandwagon.
Yeah, it'll be another soccer movie that makes $2 here in the States. I'm just going to say, look, outside of Bend It Like Beckham and maybe Ladybugs produced.
The Big Green was a huge film, at least for children.
I will look up the box office gross, but
Please,
I was going to say in Brazil, that's why they're going to the movies. Even they're bored with soccer, so they flock to the movie theaters.
Okay, Marisa, what else do we have?
Well, in fun news, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan may reunite together again on screen. This would be the fourth time the pair has paired up, and after Joe versus the Volcano, Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail. So this is actually Meg Ryan's directorial debut film.
Awesome.
And Tom Hanks is already the executive producer for this film for Ithaca. And the film sets, a family during the San Joaquin Valley during the World War II period. And one of the sons is tasked to take care of the family while the oldest son goes off to war. And Tom Hanks will make a cameo as the father, and Meg Ryan is directing it. And she will also have a cameo in the film as well.
Wow, I'm very interested to see her as a director behind the camera. That should be cool. We'll see what happens. I have no idea what it would be like, but we'll see. Another fun news from, doing a little throwback. The Jungle Book, Disney's The Jungle Book, is coming back live action. It's going to be directed by Jon Favreau, and Ben Kingsley is now going to be the voice of Bagheera. And I am so excited about this film. I love Ben Kingsley. I love The Jungle Book. I'm excited that it's going to be live action. I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, there are actually 2 Jungle Book movies in production. I personally always hate when that happens. We got Warner Brothers who's pushing to get theirs through. So it's a race, and usually one or both movies suffer from it because the studios each try to race to be number one out with their movie. And Jon Favreau, I trust. I think he'll do a good job. This seems to be in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And Ben Kingsley as the voice of Bagheera, I think is fantastic, especially when you pair it up with how Bagheera sounds in the cartoon. I think it'll be great.
I totally agree. And we should expect this in theaters in 3D as well around October of 2015.
Sure.
So that's a big month to be putting out movies. So they're thinking this is going to be a big one.
Especially when that month is more known for horror movies.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting release date for Disney to do. But they'll, they have a great marketing team, so they'll rally around it. And at this point, I don't know what the competition they're going to have, but if it offsets a horror movie, then that gives the family something to go to.
Right. I wonder if they'll still have the monkey song and dance.
I sure hope so.
I'm interested to see how they'll do that in live action.
My only thing about the Jungle Book, and only because I just recently saw it too, I hope they sort of kind of beef up the ending. I mean, the ending of the cartoon, he just sort of kind of like, oh, look, a girl.
And they walk off
Bye.
together. Yeah.
He's like, see ya. He goes, I had fun in the jungle. This is great. I want to live here. A girl. Bye. And they're like, oh, well, see ya. And the end. So we'll see what happens.
That's a really good point.
Well, for the other fun films, the Twitterverse actually got a first look at the Batman vs. Superman film. And the official account of Royal Marines Charitable Trust Fund posted an image of Henry Cavill holding up a t-shirt supporting their cause. And Henry Cavill was dressed up in a trench coat, and he had his Clark Kent glasses on and stuff. So the tweet showed a picture of him, and it was the RM1664 challenge that Henry is a big supporter of. And it's actually a Marathon Royal Marines Commando marathon that's going on. And the challenge aims to raise money for the Royal Marines Charitable Trust Fund, which helps wounded and injured Marines transition back to civilian life. So Henry Cavill is a big supporter of that.
Cool. Well, that movie is already generating so much buzz, and it's not done yet.
It's good to show it in a positive light, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost too much buzz for a movie that's coming out in 2016. Mm-hmm. So, I sort
of agree.
It's, I love that it's for a good cause. Mm-hmm. That's great. I just think, we've got like 2 years before this movie is going to hit the big screen, and it's almost, by the time it gets here, it could be so overhyped that it could be a lose-lose for Zack Snyder and team, because when something's so hyped, your expectations are already blown through the roof, and who knows what's going to happen for this. Warner Brothers and DC are hoping, it's called Batman, Superman, The Origins of Justice, or something to that effect. So this is a looking to be a window to future Justice League movies. And if the movie doesn't meet certain expectations, which are really getting blown out of proportions, that'll be another, they just better hope it's not a Green Lantern for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, let's get into Transformers news, because there is so much going on. We will be doing an Anatomy of a Movie dissection about it, which you guys can catch on July 4th. So tune into that for even more Transformers news. We're only going to hit a little bit of it today. Basically, what I think is really interesting is the industry has hit a record 90 million opening box office in China. Now, for those of you who don't know, this Transformers movie was a co-production between Michael Bay and China. They filmed parts of it in China. They used Chinese actors. They're really trying to hit this Chinese market, this sort of market that's been tapped a little bit by Hollywood, but really focusing on how can we get these billions of people to come watch movies. And with 90 million opening, that's a huge weekend there. It's set to do $1 billion worldwide. And I think what Michael Bay did by filming parts of it there, having Chinese landmarks all over the film, having Chinese actors in it, they're going to achieve what they wanted. And now Hollywood, for big blockbusters like this, is going to be looking to China and looking to their audience and seeing what they want, because they did that in Iron Man 3 as well. And now it's seeming to be working. So we'll see. But what we have on our side as American audiences is the studios don't make as much of a percentage from the Chinese box office as they do from the American. In the American box office, they make about 50%. And in China, they don't make nearly as much. So that's something that the American, moviegoers still have, the storylines will still be for us for now, I think. But it's an interesting look at what's happening.
Well, China and foreign box office within the past 5 years, 10 years, have been, the studios are focusing more on reporting a worldwide gross or a foreign gross because, take, for example, just most recently last year's Pacific Rim, which they just announced a sequel for. Last year's Pacific Rim was no great shakes. It opened up well. Actually, it opened up better than expected, but it didn't make any huge waves or break any records in the domestic box office. But where it was huge was overseas. It was huge overseas. And in Japan, when it finally opened, it was huge. And there's, studios are able to dump that and start reporting on, well, if it doesn't do here, this sort of we can say globally it did this. For example, today it was released that Maleficent has hit the $600 million worldwide mark, and it's done 400 million or so overseas. So they start to, in a way, it helps a studio thump their chest, look how much we've made. China has been interesting only because we haven't gone into China because they were one of the, it was sort of like an embargo, let's call it. And the reason being is because very high piracy in China. And it's only been within the past 5 years that the Chinese government has very hardly cracked down on piracy, and now they're cracking down on theaters that are misreporting their box office gross, because some of them are fraudulently reporting, and they are shutting down theaters if they find that they're misreporting their box office take. So, and then you also have to note too that AMC Theaters is owned by a Chinese company called the Wanda Group. So that is something new. So China is slowly seeping into the American way of cinema, by owning AMC Theaters. They have a stake in American cinema. Who knows if we see some AMC Theaters start opening up in China? But I mean, it's a big deal. And with Michael Bay and doing, going into China, and if their piracy has been cracked, it's a huge market, and it adds to your foreign gross.
Yeah.
In fact, speaking of China, today, really huge news on the Universal side. They are going to open up a branch office in China.
Wow, DreamWorks did that too.
So,
they have a lot there now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been one of those, hey, if you can stop piracy and you can guarantee and we can see that you're making a concerted effort, we're going to start to release more movies there. We'll have premieres in China.
They premiered this there.
Yep, they premiered this in China. So, they are becoming a force in box office. We'll
Quite the
see,
Mongol.
because now they're a force in the States here. I mean, AMC's the second largest chain in this country. They have stake in that. And it's just very interesting in the weeks, the years to come to see what China is able to accomplish and do.
Yeah, and in more Transformers news, I love this story. So there's a lot of criticism going around about Transformers, and please tune into the dissection to hear what we think, and we want to hear what you guys think. So please comment. But Michael Bay doesn't care. He doesn't care about the haters. He doesn't care about the fanboys. He says, let him hate. In a recent interview, he says he doesn't care. They're still going to go see the movie. So I think it's good to have a little tension. It does have 17% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So the critics are not necessarily in love with this, but Michael Bay really doesn't care. And it's set to be the summer's first $100 million domestic opener. So I think that Michael Bay does have a point that everyone's still going to go see it. We're going to check out what he's doing. But yeah, that it doesn't matter. And another fun thing, a 4D movie theater has opened up in America, in Los Angeles. So I think we all need to go take a little anatomy of a movie field trip. It's downtown, and it's a South Korean company. And basically, I think I've been on a 4D ride before at an amusement park.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But now this is for films. So in a movie like Transformers, that's why this theater has opened. So you can, feel the bumps, and there can be smoke and bubbles and all these other ways to experience a movie without just watching it. So now we have 3D, we have 4D. We'll see what happens with all of that. And the movies were sold out. The 10:30 screenings for the opening of this movie theater were sold out. So we'll see if, everyone here catches on to 4D.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
everything, our movie business and exhibition is changing, distribution is changing, and having worked on both sides, my philosophy is whatever gets butts in seats. Prepare, and I mean that. Whatever an exhibitor or distributor or studio is able to do to get more butts in seats, I'm all for. And you got to make it different than like this 4D. You can't necessarily right now. You can't get it at home. I'm not entirely sure I want to get necessarily sprinkled on while I'm watching, a movie. But I get it, and I'm all for the gimmick. I mean, they've been doing gimmicks in movie theaters since like the 50s.
Yeah.
And, so having the tingler and having your seats wired up to give an audience an electric shock while watching a horror movie. I mean,
I think
we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's the new experience that because everyone goes to the movie theaters and they see a film, and then when 3D became big, that was a new thing, and now this is like another new thing that people can experience and enjoy.
Yeah,
Sure.
and ticket prices
Add
are
more
about,
to the senses.
Yeah, they're about $24 to $27, which is actually right around what we see in IMAX or a 3D movie for sometimes during peak time. So it's not totally crazy. It is an expense. But I think people are going to go, I want to try it out. I think it's
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
For the right movie, I would, for the right
for
movie,
something like
it would be great.
Transformers, I think like when you're shaking, or I don't know if I'd see something like Waterworld in a 4D. I don't want to be drowning, but maybe something like Transformers. But speaking of box offices, Transformers: Age of Extinction did $100 million at the box office this week. 22 Jump Street is still second at $15.8 million. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is third. Think Like a Man 2. And then we still got Maleficent in the top 5. This week, we have Tammy opening, which on Rotten Tomatoes only has 17%. But it is a big summer comedy film. Mm-hmm. And Melissa McCartney has so much fire behind her. She's on the cover of Rolling Stone this month. And they're pushing it really hard. I think it'll probably do really well. Earth to Echo is coming out as well, which is going to be a cool kids movie. I think something a little different for the kids to go see. Deliver Us from Evil and Life Itself. Now, Life Itself I wasn't so sure about, and it has 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So for those of you who aren't aware of what Life Itself is, it is the documentary film that recounts the inspiring and entertaining life of the world-renowned Robert Ebert. It's based off of his book, and this movie is good. I think it's going to do really well. I think it's going to be a sleeper of the summer films. It's not a huge blockbuster, but with something like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's about someone whose voice was so influential in the movies, I think people are going to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be an art house crowd hit.
Yes.
I mean, for sure. I mean, get your tickets in advance at the Landmark or the Sundances, theaters. I think it'll do really well. Tammy will be interesting to see how that does. All the movies, actually, and something that's happening, box office wise, this weekend on the East Coast, they're being predicted to have tropical storm/hurricane weather. And on the East Coast, at least I know from my experiences in Boston, if it's raining on the 4th of July, you're going to the movies.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So if the forecasts come true, you can expect a bump where normally on 4th of July, movies take a hit, like big time, because you're barbecuing, beaching, you're watching fireworks, you're not watching movies. But if it rains hard, people are going to go to the movies on the East Coast, and it'll be interesting to see the box office and how it plays out this weekend.
Yeah.
I still think Transformers might be number one, but
it's a pretty good 4th of July explosions film.
yeah.
Those are always fun to watch on the 4th of
is.
July. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please tune into our dissection of Anatomy of a Movie for Transformers this 4th of July, and we will see you guys next week.